All right, Max. So you've been a realtor for 6 months now.
Yeah.
Tell me, you seem to have a lot of success with listings. You've had several listings right off the bat, but I want to kind of go down to our very first listing, your very first one you did. What it looked like, how'd you get it? How'd that feel?
So it was a call. I called a for rent by owner, and I just kind of asked him hypothetically, would you be interested in looking at selling this? He told me he'd call me back. I got in touch with him probably an hour later. The price made sense for him, so we met up the next day. It was a small duplex in Lockport, nothing crazy. The price point was towards 100,000, so it wasn't a big deal. But it was a really good learning experience for me. I got to see that not only is it price that kind of determines the deal, but the terms are really a big thing. It was a really big learning experience for me in the sense of the tenant in the property. He wasn't going to leave, and his rent was too low for an investor to really want to come in and buy out his rent and use him as a tenant. So it sat for a little while, and it took me a little bit of extra digging to find somebody who'd be interested in the property. But overall, I had to do a little bit of negotiating, and things came out at the end good. I double-sided the deal. I made really good friends with both sides of the deal. I still go and I see the property. I say hello to the buyer. He's doing full renovations on the property. He did keep the tenant. So the tenant's there, and he's paying, I think, like 25% more or something like that. He got him up on the rent. So overall, it was a really good learning experience for me. It kind of showed me that it's not just like a piece of cake to list a property and sell it.
Yeah, that's really good. And kind of what I've always noticed in what you're saying there is you said you did a lot of negotiating, but really it's how do you make everyone happy, right? How'd you make the buyer happy? How'd you break the seller? And also the tenant, right? The tenant got to stay, like you said. So it's how do you negotiate all the terms where really everyone wins? And that's sometimes the hardest part of negotiation, because a lot of times people think negotiation, I'm against that person's against me, but you kind of found it's more how do we find the commonalities so we can make this deal happen?
Right. Yeah. And I actually find it funny. It's interesting. That's like sometimes like the buyer will say something about the seller say something about the buyer, and it's, oh, well, we'll screw him or whatever. But in the end of the day, like we all came to terms, and it all ended up being perfect for everybody. My seller was able to pay off his loan and go to the military, and my buyer is enjoying it as another rental in his portfolio. So, things are going good on that deal now.
That's great. So you've done that deal, you've done a couple others. What have you found you need as far as like mentorship and, getting questions answered? What's that all look like at Towne, and what's that look like in your situations?
So you personally would know from the, a few hours I take a day on the phone with you. The biggest thing that it comes down to is like in the moment, if I have a question, I got to figure out the answer to that like ASAP. And sometimes I have people waiting on the phone asking me questions like, hey, what's going on? And I might not know. So it's important for me to have someone like you to kind of reach out to, and have you on call really any time of day to get these questions answered so the deals can move along and my professionalism stays, and it looks like that I have this information is coming right from my head, which in a sense it is, but in a sense it's not. So, but it's good to have you as a mentor to call,
Thank you. Yeah, and it's kind of that assemblage of knowledge from me and what you've learned from previous deals and things like that. So from the first deal, there's probably a lot more calls than like more recent deals. So you've learned one from training that we have, but also just from doing deals, you've learned a lot. Yeah.
Definitely. The big thing of me learning has been seeing the deals themselves, because every deal is different. But it seems like every deal comes down to a really close negotiation, and every time it's like, oh gosh, here we go. Is the deal going to happen? And then it always ends up working itself out. But yeah, definitely a lot of experience in those listings, a lot.
Yeah, and kind of you're really kind of going towards that more listings in the future. So how are you going to try to continue to get more listings, say in the next 12 months, 2 years, and what are things that Towne Housing can do to support that?
Yeah, so obviously I've kicked out a good amount of listings in the last few months. I plan on doing the same exact thing. So far as really just reaching out to people every single day, really, however that may be, it's more about having a conversation with someone or multiple people every day. Sales is a numbers game, and I know that. So it's easy for me to walk away from a no or like a screw you, and walk into someone who might be interested in using my service. So yeah, going forward, it's the big thing is daily prospecting, staying consistent, and making sure that I'm having these conversations as much as possible every single day, whether that's over text, phone, email, face to face, however I can do it. That's the way I go.
You've been here 6 months. You've had several listings. You got several things pending. When you were coming in, what were your expectations, and what did you find to maybe that were correct to your expectations, or maybe not so correct to your expectations when you started becoming a realtor?
So I think the one big thing that really kicked me coming into it was being afraid that there was going to be no business for me. And I think that's a lot of the things that new agents kind of worry about. But over the time with this experience, I've learned that it's not really a matter of is there business for me. It's a matter of if you're going to go find that business. So an abundance mindset, constantly thinking that there's as many deals out there as I can have, and there's as much money out there as I can get from a deal, always. So keeping that in mind, I could always pick up the phone and know that there's going to be somebody on the other side who is interested in using my service. So actually, it really beat my expectations. I had some lower expectations coming in, and now I feel like completely different mindset from where I was at the beginning. I'm no longer scared of where my next deal is going to come from.
Yeah, and you're a little bit younger, and I remember when I was younger and I started my own businesses, I always had this thing, oh, I'm just a kid. No one's going to take me serious. And then I found out, and I think you're finding out, that when you're hungry, you're going to do things that seasoned agents might not do to get business. You're going to go ahead and get the low hanging fruit, high hanging fruit, whatever fruit you can get, where the other ones might say, oh, I've done that before. I'm over it, where you're okay just going at everyone. Like you said, you're prospecting really every day in order to do that.
Yeah. Being young is definitely a big thing. It's important to be at a brokerage, and I was thinking about this morning, that really believes in me, no matter my age. So yeah, I mean, I've walked into listing appointments and I've had people tell me, you look way too young to sell my house, and they've kicked me out straight up. And that's fine. In that case, those people probably wouldn't have been professional enough for me to work with anyways. And I'm okay with that. And if someone brings up my age, something that I always kind of talk with them about is like, if I was 30, 40 years old, how would you view my service then? And it kind of makes them step back and think, does it really matter? I mean, if this guy is professional, if he has the experience and if he's serious about this, then there should be no difference between me and someone who's 30, 40, 50 years older than me, if you even would be in the business at that point.
That's right. Yeah, you have the experience and you've been really building that experience, but no one's going to work harder than you. And I think that's something that you're able to sell constantly, and that's why you've had so much success, is that you do work harder than most agents and you are willing to put that work in. I think that's part that's selling you.
Yeah, definitely comes down to the daily stuff. I just gotta stay on it daily. I try to never skip my consistent calendar. It's always written in. I'm always doing those things day after day. It's little things that kind of really start to build into a big trail of success. Just that constant day after day of doing the right things.
Great. So what are your goals for 2024? Do you have numbers in mind? What are you looking at?
So I'm already almost exceeding the goals that I've set for myself at the beginning of becoming an agent. So my goals are always coming up more and more. I'd like to be at 12 deals by November. That was my original goal, and I'm like close to that. So I'll probably continue to try and increase that, but let's call it like by next year, I'd like to have 24 or 25 listings within the year. And I'd like to have volume that qualifies me as like the real producer list.
Yeah.
So that's one of the big goals, is being part of the Real Producer people.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think you'll definitely achieve that. And I love that. First, for a new agent that's going all at it, I always say, yeah, just like your goal is one deal a month is awesome to start off. And as soon as you hit that, double it, right? And you're doing exactly that. And I think you are ahead of schedule, which is really exciting for that.
Yeah. A lot of exciting things coming up. I'm working hard every single day, so I have no doubt that I'll be bringing bigger and better deals to the market within the next few years. I have goals of wanting to build a team out, so obviously that's years away, but I see this as a full-time career. I see this as something that I really love and enjoy, so I have no plan on stopping anytime soon, so the foot's on the gas. We're going to continue on.
Congrats. That's awesome.
Go.